The NHL regular season has all but come to an end, and I've never seen anything like this to conclude a playoff race. When you look at the numbers and all the scenarios that had to go right or wrong, you'll be asking yourself, how the hell did this happen? This chaotic season deserved a chaotic ending, so let's recap the madness heading into the NHL playoffs. Monday, can't lose. Usually McDavid getting 100 assists in a season and the Rangers clinching the President's Trophy is enough to create headlines, but the East wildcard race completely stole the show. With 2 games left in the season for almost every team in the NHL, the Islanders, Caps, Red Wings, Penguins, and Flyers are all still competing for the last 2 playoff spots in the East. Heading into Monday, the Isles held the 3rd spot in the Metro, while the Caps held the last wildcard spot. Let's start with the Islanders, who got the pleasure of facing the New Jersey Devils. Jean-Gabriel Pageau and Cal Palmieri set the tone with 2 goals in the first, and then the suffocation that is Islanders hockey began. New Jersey would only get 1, while the Islanders added 2 more to win 4-1. The Islanders clinch the 3rd Metro playoff spot and book another first-round rematch from last year against the Carolina Hurricanes. The Patrick Waugh bet has worked as he's come on board and led the team to a 19-12-5 record and gotten them into the playoffs. Then the Washington Anomalies had arguably the toughest opponent of the night, with them playing the Boston Bruins. If Boston wins, they can clinch the Atlantic Division, so even though they are in, they still have something to play for. At least that's what everyone thought, but the Caps are pure anarchists that make no sense. Despite having a minus 38 goal differential, a strong defense and a Charlie Lindgren masterclass results in a 2-0 Cap shutout, with Boston recording only 16 shots. Every team and their fan base must have been pissed watching Boston put in that effort, but it just makes things a lot more interesting. That Boston loss means that Florida still has the opportunity to take the top spot in the Atlantic and potentially give us a first round of Tampa versus Florida and Boston versus Toronto. The team most pissed at Boston has to be the Penguins after they beat them 6-4 in regulation to put Pittsburgh on the outside looking in. The fact that they couldn't do that against Washington makes this whole thing a lot more complicated. The Penguins had Nashville on Monday, and Sid the middle-aged man continues to strain his back from carrying the damn Penguins. He has a crazy Superman dive effort on the power play to give the Penguins the early lead, and they could have been up by way more than 2 goals after the first, but they also had 2 other goals overturned due to goaltender interference. Regardless, that didn't stop the Penguins, as their early push was simply too much for a Preds team that has already clinched a playoff spot. The Penguins get a massive 2 points, and that leaves their final game against the Islanders on Wednesday. That game could either mean everything or nothing, depending on Tuesday's games. Before we continue with the rest of the video, I want to thank Manscaped for being today's sponsor. April is National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, and with a male-dominated audience, I wanted to spread the message of how important it is to stay on top of your health. Testicular cancer is the most common form of cancer amongst men in ages 15 to 35, so it's imperative to keep an eye on things down there in case anything starts to feel a bit off. Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to help you take care down there. Manscaped sent me the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Trimmer, which is both cordless and waterproof. And here's my old one, which I've used for years for all the Leaf playoff beards that usually last about a week. But the Lawnmower 5.0, however, is great for getting into the more sensitive areas. It's smooth on the skin, it gets all the tough spots, and once you're done cleaning up, it's a great opportunity to perform a quick and simple routine self-check on your cojones to make sure everything feels and looks normal. You can take care of your pair today by using our promo code HOCKEY for 20% off and join the Manscaped movement for men's health. Finally, we had an original 6 matchup between the Red Wings and the Canadiens. The Wings have Montreal back-to-back for their final games, and with them being a lottery team, Detroit is in a favorable spot. However, things were not going as planned early on, as Montreal took it to Detroit. Brendan Gallagher scores 2 goals and puts the Habs up 4-1 late in the second period. With the season on the line, Detroit was laying an egg, but a late second period goal by JT Compher gave them life. With Detroit playing with desperation in the third, DeBrincat would get a crucial goal midway to make it a 1-goal game. Frantically trying to tie it, Detroit would pull the goalie for the extra man, and look at this effort from Shane Gostisbehere. Montreal tries to clear it, and this man becomes Michael Jordan in Space Jam to extend his arm all the way out to keep this puck alive in the zone. That play allowed Detroit to keep possession, and with 1 minute and 17 seconds left in regulation, Lucas Raymond gets all day for a clear look after Perron drags his man into the middle, and Lucas Raymond is the hero by tying the game. It's bedlam in Detroit, but they still need the extra point. After some back and forth play in OT, Larkin and Raymond get a 2-on-1 with 30 seconds left, and watch the sauce into space by Larkin. Raymond arrives at the perfect time, catches and releases the puck to beat Montembeault clean, and the Red Wings complete a massive comeback. Unbelievable drama, and with 1 game to go, 4 teams can still grab the last playoff spot. At the end of Monday, Washington still holds the last spot over Detroit as they have the tiebreaker, which is regulation wins. It's simple heading into Tuesday. If Washington wins, they're in, but if they lose, it can set up a whole bunch of chaos for all the other teams. That makes Tuesday the biggest night of the season, with everyone's playoff hopes on the line. Tuesday, the beginning of the end. For Tuesday, the only team and fan base that had to sit and watch anxiously was the Pittsburgh Penguins. The 2 games they would be watching closely are the Flyers and Caps, and the Habs versus the Red Wings. Now, all the scenarios were a bit complicated, but to keep it simple, if the Caps win in any fashion, they are in the playoffs. The only path for Philly to get in starts with them beating the Caps clean in regulation. So this game was a Game 7 for both teams. To start the game, Philly did look tentative, but a relatively harmless shot from Joel Farabee bounces up in the air. No one knows where it is. It comes down, hits Farabee in the leg, and goes into the net. Flyers get a massive first goal, but the only issue is that referee Kelly Sutherland blows it dead, thinking that goaltender Charlie Lindgren had control of the puck. Torts just can't believe it. Philly fans can't believe it. I can't believe it, and even though they were reviewing the play, it was deemed no goal simply because the ref made a mistake. A wild turn that takes an early goal off the board for Philly, and knowing this season, you just know that 1 goal is going to come back to haunt them later. Just as the period is dying down, the Grade 8 gets a fortunate bounce in front of the net, and the Caps take a 1-0 lead. The hockey gods are playing games, and it's turning Flyers fans into the Joker. Meanwhile, both games started at 7, so Montreal and Detroit were underway, and the Wings decided that they wanted to ride this roller coaster again by falling down 3-1 halfway through the second. This Red Wings team's got that flair, and they respond 30 seconds later with a Joe Veleno goal to pull within 1. Then we saw this save of the season for Detroit. A cross-seam pass on the power play at the end of the second, and Reimer robs Caulfield to keep this game 3-2 heading into the third. Philly would find a way to tie the game halfway through the second, while Detroit followed suit by scoring an early goal in the third to set up a chaotic ending. With Montreal's rookie Lane Hudson doing the shimmy shake on the blue line, he throws a floater which is tipped by Juraj Slafkovsky for his 20th of the season, and with 7 minutes left in the third, the Red Wings' playoff hopes are on life support. With time ticking down in Philly and them needing a regulation win, the likelihood that the Flyers pull the goalie in a tied game become more and more likely. All they need is Detroit to lose in regulation, and with one last face-off with 7.7 seconds left, Philly had hope. Except Detroit does the unthinkable, and Perron ties the game to keep Detroit's playoff hopes alive. That goal officially eliminates the Flyers, but with them being in their own battle, they still believe that they need a regulation win. So, with 3 minutes left, Philly pulls the goalie, and TJ Oshie clinches the last playoff spot with an empty netter. Philly had no other choice if they wanted to make the postseason, but honestly, I've never seen anything like this to decide a playoff spot. An empty net goal in a tied game clinches a playoff spot and eliminates 3 teams in one shot. The Red Wings' miraculous comeback means nothing, and there's no justice for Sid the Middle-Aged Man as he's eliminated by his forever rival in Alex Ovechkin. The Capitals make the playoffs with the worst goal differential since 1991 by being a minus 37 on the season. Statistically, it didn't make sense for this team to be in this position, but strong goaltending and making big plays at the right time got them into the dance. They are the anomalies, and they are inevitable. With Wednesday and Thursday now being filled with meaningless games, Some other action in the East tonight confirmed our matchups. With Matthews chasing 70, the Panthers showed them what real playoff hockey looks like and dominated them for 60 minutes to cruise to victory. Combine that with Boston losing to the empty net Guardians, and that means we get a first round matchup of Lightning versus the Panthers and the Bruins versus the Leafs. PTSD is in full swing for Leaf Nation, and because of that, the parade is canceled strictly due to trauma. With that, the NHL regular season has basically come to an end, and for how chaotic of a season it was, this was a fitting finish. So, who is your Cup favorite heading into the playoffs? Let us know in the comments down below, and make sure you stay tuned to the channel because we're going to be dropping a playoff preview before things kick off on Saturday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and buckle up for the ride that is the NHL Playoffs.